My jealous brother slept with my fiancé right after our engagement. Now the family is done with him. I, 23 male, recently got engaged and broke off my engagement within 2 weeks. My fiancée Riley, 23 female, slept with my older brother Adam, 27 male, the night after our engagement. My disgusting brother tried to rub it in my face to make me feel bad. Riley and I had been together for almost 3 years, but she threw it all away for my brother the night of our engagement. She told me she was excited to marry me, but she broke her word the next day when she slept with my brother. I was very upset about it and ended things via text message and blocked her. I also changed the locks on my house so she couldn't come back home. Riley and I had been living together for the past year, and everything had been going really well, so I thought it was the right time to propose to her. I never thought she would end up betraying me with Adam of all people, because she knows he and I have an intense rivalry and don't get along at all. My dad passed away when I was a baby in an accident, and I barely have any memories of him. Adam spent some time with him at least, but I have no memory of what he was like. Adam never liked me, and growing up, he was my biggest enemy. He was always a bully, and my mother, being a single mother, really didn't have time to deal with our sibling rivalry because she had more important things on her mind, like paying the bills and making sure there was food on the table every day. Our uncle, my dad's brother, visited a lot and tried to help as much as he could. My mother stayed in touch with my father's family even after his passing for their sake because they had already lost their son. They didn't need to lose their grandchildren too. My uncle was practically the only father figure I've known, and he still is my go-to person. To Adam, my mother didn't show favoritism, but it was very clear that if she had to choose one, it would be Adam. And that made our sibling rivalry even more intense, because I wanted to be my mother's favorite too. Unfortunately, I was always a loser as a kid. I wasn't good at sports, and I was mediocre at best when it came to academics. I was quite skinny, and had no talents that made me stand out. So I was always very insecure about everything, and that made it very difficult for me to talk to people, make friends, and be popular. I was really introverted and mostly kept to myself. Adam was the complete opposite. He played sports and was great at it. He wasn't bad academically either and had a very different build from mine, big and robust due to his athletic activity. Needless to say, being his younger brother was even more embarrassing for me because although no one said it to my face, I knew everyone constantly compared me to him and thought I was a loser in comparison. Over time, I learned to live in his shadow and just let him walk all over me. My self-esteem really took a hit in my childhood, and I never recovered from it. Even up until the last day of high school, I barely had friends, and no one wanted to talk to me because I just seemed weird. Things only changed for me and started to get better when I graduated and went to college. I was a new person there, and no one knew me as Adam's younger brother, so I really developed as an individual. Now I didn't have to deal with Adam's constant bullying, and I could finally be myself. I know it sounds cheesy, but I'm very grateful that I was able to go to college out of state where no one knew me, because I don't think I would have been the person I am today if it wasn't for that experience. And I have to thank my uncle because he was the one who paid for my college education. My mother had told me that she couldn't afford to send me to a college that far away, and wanted me to choose a place closer within our city if possible. But I had made up my mind, and my uncle offered to cover it and took care of it. I made a lot of friends there and graduated at the top of my class. My mother and my uncle attended my graduation ceremony, but Adam didn't, even though I had attended his. After moving, Adam and I didn't really stay in touch for obvious reasons. He hated me for no reason, and I hated him because he made my childhood and teenage years a total nightmare. I was happy to be rid of him, and we only met on holidays or when we came home for birthdays. Years have passed, and that was the arrangement we stuck to. We didn't consider ourselves family beyond the limits of our house, but I comforted him and sent him a message when he lost all his money a couple of years ago. He quit his job and tried to start his own business, but it failed miserably, and my uncle and mother had to bail him out as he was neck-deep in debt. He couldn't go back to his old job, so he had to move back to our mom's house for a couple of months until he got back on his feet. Even when he finally found a job, it wasn't as good as his old one, but he took it because he wanted to move out of mom's house as he was in his 20s, and felt embarrassed to still be living with her. This is what my uncle told me, and it was quite disheartening because his life had completely fallen apart. I felt bad for him and sent him a message of comfort, but I think he misunderstood it and thought I was bragging or mocking him, so he blocked me and ignored me during the next holidays. We weren't friendly when we met, but we tried to keep things civil and at least greeted each other, no matter how coldly. But after that message, there was no communication between us. I wish I could say that Adam's life got better, but it didn't. The failure of his business affected him a lot, and every time I saw him after that, he seemed worse off than before. My uncle told me he had changed jobs 7 or 8 times after that, but he didn't seem satisfied with any of them. His clothes became more disheveled, and we could see his mental state reflected in how he acted at family gatherings. He was always drinking or staring silently into space. Honestly, I really felt bad for him when I saw him in that state. I had always hated him as a kid, but now it was very hard to hate someone who was already going through so much. My uncle always tried to include him in our conversation, but he didn't seem interested and always left early. I had also started bringing Riley to these gatherings after being together for a year. She knew about Adam and even seemed worried about him, but there wasn't much we could do. Fast forward to our engagement, which took place 2 weeks ago. Riley and I were at my uncle's house for his birthday dinner. First, I asked and made sure he was okay with me proposing at his birthday party, and he was, so I went ahead. The whole family would be there anyway, and my uncle had a beautiful house with a lovely garden, so it was the perfect place. I even invited her parents, but they were not going to show up until after the proposal, so she couldn't guess what was about to happen. After my uncle cut the cake and everything, I took her outside and popped the question. She said yes, and then we went back inside to announce it to everyone and celebrate. I noticed that Adam left minutes after I made the announcement, but I didn't give it much importance because I was quite busy with everyone else that night, and besides, he usually leaves family gatherings early. So it wasn't unexpected. Riley and I had a great night and then went back home. She didn't mention anything about Adam or his strange behavior after we got home, which she usually does whenever we go to any of my family events. We were both very drunk and tired, so I fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow, but I accidentally woke up around 2 in the morning because I had to go to the bathroom. When I woke up, I noticed Riley was still on her phone, and when I asked her who she was talking to, she said she was telling a couple of her friends about the engagement. That seemed innocent, so I didn't suspect anything, and went back to sleep shortly after. But 2 days later, while I was at work, I received a bunch of text messages from Adam. It was really unexpected because the last time we had a conversation, he had blocked me. They were just screenshots of his conversation with Riley, and in those chats they were planning to meet up and have sex. Which they did. It started with Adam texting her to congratulate her on the engagement, and she asked why he wasn't there for the rest of the night. So he told her he was upset about a lot of things and wanted to leave while he could, because he didn't want to intrude on my happiness. He talked about how we've never been friends, and he felt it was inappropriate for him to be there on such an occasion for me, so he left. He was making himself look like a sad puppy who wasn't wanted, but the truth is I really wouldn't have cared if he had stayed all night. He just wanted Riley to sympathize with him so he could manipulate her more easily, and that's exactly what happened. She started comforting him and said she was there for him. She also said I was a good guy and hadn't tried to hurt his feelings, so she apologized on our behalf if he felt bad about what happened. And Adam responded by saying he could never find someone like Riley, so he didn't see the point in even trying. That bastard started flirting with her, and she responded in the same way, and suddenly they were making plans to meet up. And I know for sure she went to his house the night after our engagement because she told me she was going to spend the night at her friend's house to tell her all about the engagement. Moreover, Adam also sent me photos of Riley's clothes on his bed, and that was all I needed to see. It was a sick and disgusting thing to do, and it really took me by surprise, but I took the rest of the day off and went home immediately after receiving Adam's messages. I was sobbing uncontrollably, but even with tears in my eyes, I decided to change the lock and started packing everything I could find. Everything I saw and knew belonged to Riley. I put in a cardboard box, and once I finished, I placed it outside the door. By the time I finished all that, it was almost time for Riley to come home. I hadn't seen her since the previous night because she told me she would go to work directly from her friend's house. But of course, now I know she went to work from Adam's house. I wanted to break up with her in person, but after a while, I decided it wasn't worth it because she had literally cheated on me the day after I proposed to her and promised to spend the rest of her life with me. I was very upset, so I decided to end it through a text message. I sent her a message saying I knew she had slept with Adam and that I didn't want to be with her anymore. I told her she disgusted me, and all her things were outside the door so she could take the box and leave because I didn't want to see her. If she had left anything at home, then she could come back later to pick it up. I told her we were done, then sent the message and blocked her. A few minutes after sending that message, Riley was at my door knocking and begging me to let her in. She was devastated, and I could hear it in her voice. She was begging me to give her a chance to explain herself, and she kept telling me she knew she had made a huge mistake, but she just wanted me to listen to her. It lasted about half an hour, and it was incredibly difficult for me to stay calm and ignore it. But after she tried everything, from crying to manipulating and then begging, she finally left. Just to be sure, I didn't open the door for about an hour after the pleading stopped to make sure she wasn't still waiting outside. Once I was sure she had left, I ordered takeout, had dinner, and then tried to sleep, but I was so upset that I couldn't close my eyes. I wanted to do something big to get revenge on Adam and really teach him a lesson, but I couldn't think of anything. I thought about it on my own for a while, and when I couldn't come up with anything, I decided to take the easier route and simply forward those screenshots to everyone in the family saying, "This is what my dear brother Adam did to me," and then turned off my phone and went to sleep. Honestly, I didn't have a plan in mind, nor did I set any conditions for my relatives, so what they did was of their own free will, and I had absolutely no part in it. Everyone in the family responded with sympathy and told me they had blocked him and would cut him off entirely. Everyone was in shock after finding out what Adam had done to me and reached out to comfort me, except for my mom. She didn't talk to me for the first few days after I sent that message to everyone, but she visited me a few days later, looking very upset. I knew she wasn't going to sit and comfort me like the others. I was right because she had visited to talk about my actions. She said she could understand that I was upset with Adam for whatever he had done, and rightly so, but still, I should have refrained from publicizing the incident. Her reasoning was that Adam was already suffering so much because he was an adult man living with the memory of a failed business and no prospects in his love life. He had some flings here and there, but nothing permanent, and it was especially sad because he was a really promising young man when he was younger. So no one could have imagined he would turn out to be so unsuccessful and sad. On the other hand, no one could have expected me to be as successful as I am today, whether in my job or my relationships. My mom believed that Adam did this out of envy, which I already knew. For context, I work at an architecture firm and have a well-paying job. I worked very hard to get to where I am now, and if Adam had properly researched his business instead of diving in head first, he wouldn't have failed, and he wouldn't be earning less than half of what I make. But back to the point, as my mom was saying all this, it almost seemed like she was trying to justify what he did. So I interrupted her and asked if she was really trying to make it seem acceptable that Adam slept with my fiancé the night after we got engaged, simply because his life was sad and pathetic. She took a minute, then said it wasn't right, but that I needed to understand where he was coming from and be a little understanding and forgiving. She went on to say that the family cutting ties with Adam had affected him a lot, and he was miserable. Family gatherings were all he had because he felt ashamed to be around his friends, who were much more successful than him. So he didn't keep in touch with them, and the family was all he had. I was happy about that, and really didn't care that he was miserable, because he had caused my relationship with Riley to end, so he deserved this, and I had no sympathy to offer him. But my mom believed that I should be the bigger person and talk to everyone to somehow convince them to give him another chance. Not only that, but she also wanted me to reach out to him and clear the air. I told her I wasn't going to do any of that, and that she was crazy to even expect me to reach out to the person who had deliberately ruined my relationship. I really got mad at her. I told her I knew she had favorites, though it wasn't really that obvious, but she didn't have to rub it in my face and make me feel so bad. I said if I had done the same thing to Adam, then she wouldn't have been trying to justify it and make it seem like it wasn't a big deal. She would have probably been furious about it, something I was sure of. She tried to deny it, and we started arguing. It turned into a big fight, and she got very upset and offended. She left the house after saying she wouldn't talk to me until I reached out to Adam and tried to resolve things with him. It's been a couple of days since then, and my relatives have been checking on me. Mainly, it's my uncle who has been texting me daily. Riley also sends me messages from time to time from different numbers, hoping to get me back or at least have a conversation with me, but I haven't responded. I haven't blocked her from those numbers yet, but I know I have to and will eventually. The only person I haven't heard from since our big fight is my mom, and I really feel bad about it. I mentioned before that I knew my brother was her favorite because they always seemed to have some inexplicable bond, even when I was a child. But my mom never showed favoritism, at least until now. I just feel very confused about what she said. I'm happy with my life right now, and it's not like I'm depressed or anything, but I do want my mom in my life. But I don't agree with her take on the whole situation between Adam and Riley. What do you guys think? Was I wrong for sending proof to my family that my brother and fiancé cheated on me? Update 1. The people have spoken, and the people have been heard. Thank you all so much for the comments on the original post and for reading it so patiently. I'm glad many of you have given me good advice on what to do next, and assured me that I wasn't wrong, because what my mom said really made me feel like I had somehow crossed a line by doing what I did. But evidently that's not the case, and I don't need to reach out to anyone. I also talked to my uncle about what my mom said. I hadn't told anyone before because it was personal, and I didn't want to discuss this with other people, but my uncle is family, and I felt considerably better after talking to him. He said he had also noticed that my mom always favored Adam over me. It wasn't always very obvious, but it was definitely there, and anyone with a brain could tell she had a favorite, and it wasn't me. He said he really felt bad for what happened to me because he knew how much I loved Riley, and yet she didn't think twice before sleeping with Adam, despite knowing about our relationship. It was disturbing, but there wasn't much I could do when, honestly, it was somewhat okay, as I like to think I dodged a bullet there. I haven't fully recovered from her, but I know I'll get there. However, that's not really what worries me. My relationship with my mom is something I don't want to lose, but if she acts like this and victimizes Adam, then I don't see a way we can get along or reconcile. My uncle thinks I should just give up. He said he knows my mom and also knows that she won't back down if she thinks she's right. He told me not to get my hopes up that she will change her mind and talk to me because it's quite unlikely, as she has been visiting Adam almost every day since our family cut him off. It hurt that she still went out of her way to take care of him, even though I was the one who really lost a relationship because of him, and a quite important one. But I also understand that I can't change the situation, and it is what it is. That's something my uncle taught me, to accept things and let them go, and I guess that's what I have to do. I tried to argue with my mom and make her see the truth, but she wasn't interested in the truth. She was only interested in making sure Adam had all the support he needed. Well, that's fine by me, I guess. Update 2. It's been almost 2 weeks since I broke up with Riley, and she was texting me almost every other day for about a week after we broke up. But then she just stopped, probably after realizing that begging me to take her back wasn't going to work. And I don't want to talk to her or hear her side of the story. I don't even know why she thought explaining her side would make things better because, as far as I'm concerned, nothing justifies cheating, and that's just how it is. But she contacted me yesterday and said she wanted to come by to pick up some things that were left at my place. That's when I finally responded because now we were talking business instead of her pleading for me to talk to her and me ignoring all those texts. I told her she could come by today because I was taking the day off anyway, and it was better to get this over with. So she came around noon, and I could tell she was really upset. She looked worse than usual and didn't look me in the eyes once the whole time she was there. I didn't say anything to her either after opening the door and letting her in. There was silence in the house while she packed her things, and I sat on the couch in the living room, avoiding looking at her. Once she finished packing, she said she was leaving. And although I had a lot to say to her, I just said goodbye and then went back to my phone. She didn't deserve anything more than that, and after that, she just left for good. It feels strange, but in a good way, because this means I never have to talk to her or receive her messages again, or have things in the house remind me of her. I blocked her a few minutes after she left, and decided to celebrate by watching our favorite movie on my own. I still haven't heard from my mom, but over time, it's becoming easier to accept it. At least now I know for sure that she would never have taken my side here just because I'm not Adam. So what I did for her would never be enough, and honestly, I'm tired of trying. My uncle told me he also had a fight with her recently while trying to defend me, and she didn't like it, so things aren't good between them either. I can't believe she's willing to sacrifice her relationship with both of us just to keep defending Adam, even knowing he's a jerk. It just doesn't make sense to me, but I guess if that's what she wants, then whatever. Update 3. It's been a month since I last posted here, and I can't believe that until a month ago, I was still complaining that my mom didn't love me. But now I'm better, and I just don't care what my mom thinks. She's as delusional and selfish as my brother, and that's probably why they get along so well because they're both horrible people. And I was quite unfortunate to be related to both. But now I have no ties with either of them, and I'm very grateful for that because they don't deserve someone like me, and neither did Riley. I was always too good for them, and if they couldn't see that, then it's their loss. I have no reason to feel bad about anything. And that's why I don't feel bad that no one in our family talks to them or invites them to any events. They simply have no ties with any of us anymore, and I couldn't be happier about that. Riley and I haven't talked since she came by to pick up her things for the last time because I blocked her afterward. Just like most of our mutual friends did after finding out the real reason behind our engagement being called off. But my mom tried to contact me a few days ago, and even now, she doesn't think she needs to apologize to me, which is just insane to think about. Even in the last conversation we had, she kept insisting on how Adam is suffering and has been diagnosed with clinical depression. I told her I could give her the phone number of a psychotherapist, but nothing more, and I was definitely not going to talk to our relatives now to make them feel sympathy for him, and then she started trying to manipulate me, becoming emotional and sentimental. She was really exaggerating and said she had already lost her husband, and she didn't want to lose the two most important men in her life now over a stupid fight about a girl. It was interesting that she saw the fight as stupid and trivial because, as I recall, the fight wasn't over a girl. It was over my fiancé, and it was neither stupid nor trivial because Adam decided to cheat with Riley on purpose just because he wanted to make me feel bad. So I think I had a right to be mad at him and never want to talk to him again. As for the rest of our family, I didn't pressure them to do anything. They cut contact with Adam and my mom because of their own behavior, and I had absolutely nothing to do with that. So if they want to blame someone, they should blame themselves. This is what I told my mom before blocking her. Now, I can finally move on with my life and let them go to hell. I care little to nothing.